All right, good evening, everybody. Going to go ahead and call to order the Bristol, Virginia City Council for our regularly scheduled meeting tonight, October the 10th, 2023. Please join me in a moment of silence. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, I'm glad to see everybody this evening, and we have got an agenda with some important stuff on it, so we'll go ahead and jump right into it and open it up to council comments.
I've got one thing. Tomorrow, the Child Advocacy Center is celebrating its 25th anniversary. They are the first child advocacy center in the state of Virginia. They, if you don't know anything about them, the folks there, they help children who have been through abuse, provide treatment, help manage prosecution of offenders, just kind of shepherd the child through probably the most terrible time in their life. So the work they do is vital. Hopefully one day our society will no longer need a child advocacy center, but thank God they're here. Thank God they do what they do for the children they serve. So I just want to thank them for their service for 25 years, quarter of a century, celebrate with them. And then also their executive director, Kathy Rourke, over the weekend at their state conference won the Janie Dockery Award. I don't know the details of that, but obviously if Kathy won it, Janie Dockery was an amazing person too. So congratulations to Kathy for that phenomenal award and for all the work she's done over the years. So thank you.
Might also note that we have some new businesses that are opening. We have one that's going to be having their soft opening anyway tomorrow, and that's the new Royal Farms convenience store is going to be having their soft opening tomorrow, and I know a lot of people have been looking for that for a long time. We've seen them developing their property over the last year or so, and some of the excitement started building a year before that when they bought the property. So we're glad to see that finally come to fruition. And there's a lot of our local nonprofits have been seeing notable progresses recently, such as Girls Inc. And we are really proud of the organizations that make our city as great as it is.
Very good. And before we jump into city manager's comments, we'll just note that Vice Mayor Nave is absent tonight for the record. She's traveling and was not able to make it. City manager's comments.
Yes, Council, there's a few things I'd like to note tonight. I want to say congratulations to the Bristol Hotel on celebrating their 5-year anniversary this past week. Also on October 30th, the Bristol Redevelopment and Housing Authority will have their trunk or treat event from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. in the Rice Terrace parking lot. Also on October 26th at 6 p.m. at the Bristol train station, we will be having one of our first workshops for our future, for our comp plan that we are in the process of updating right now. So that's on October 26th at 6 p.m. at the train station. To piggyback on Mr. Pollard, Royal Farms will officially open on October 16th. And as a reminder, the 30-day warning period for the speed cameras in school zones is in effect. Enforcement will begin on November 6th, so please slow down in these areas.
All right, thank you very much. Now we're moving to adoption of the agenda. Looking for a motion and a second, and whether there are any changes.
I would like to move to approve the agenda as presented with one change. I would like to recommend that item E2 be postponed to a later date. Let's try for the next meeting because we want to get that done. We just can't get it done tonight.
All right, so a motion from Mr. Pollard to approve the agenda with the removal of Ordinance E2.
Second.
Second from Mr. Farnham. Please call the roll.
Farnum,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. All right, into the regular agenda. Item 1, public hearing on proposed issuance of general obligation bond anticipation notes by the City of Bristol, Virginia. I will open the public hearing, and no one signed up for public comment. Staff report.
Council, tonight is a public hearing on the proposed issuance by the City of Bristol, Virginia of general obligation bond anticipation notes and pledging the full faith and credit of the city thereto. The proceeds of the notes will be used to finance a portion of the costs of mitigation and remediation of the integrated solid waste management facility located in Bristol, Virginia, including the landfill units associated with landfill permits number 498 and 588, and the closure of the landfill unit associated with landfill permit number 498. The notes will be issued in principal amount not to exceed $32 million to finance such projects, fund capitalized interest on the notes, and pay the cost of the issuance. The notes may be issued in more than one series from time to time. The public hearing was advertised in the Bristol Herald-Courier on September 26, 2023 and October 3rd, 2023.
Thank you very much. We'll close the public hearing and move to item 2, resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of general obligation bond anticipation notes, Series 2023 of the City of Bristol, Virginia, and providing for the form, details, and payment thereof. No one has signed up for public comment. Staff report.
Council, tonight we have with us our bond counsel, Megan Gillen from Kaufman and Knowles. She is here to answer any questions that you may have in regards to this issuance of bonds. We also have David Rose here from Davenport and Company, our financial advisor, for any questions as well. On March 14, 2023, the council passed a resolution entitled, "A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Bristol, Virginia, declaring its intention to reimburse the cost of certain expenditures, declaring its official intent to reimburse from proceeds of tax-exempt bonds or other indebtedness to be incurred after the date of such resolution, expenditures related to the closure and remediation of the landfill." On October 10, 2023, the council held a public hearing duly noticed with respect to the issuance of the city's general obligation bond anticipation notes in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $32 million to finance remediation and closure costs associated with landfill 498 and 588.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move to the reading of the resolution.
Hang on just a second, let me find it. Now, do we want to read this resolution by caption only?
Well,
That might be a good idea.
reading comes before the motion and the second. Can we do that?
Yeah, we can do that.
So you want the motion and the second first then?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do the motion.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion and a second for the reading of the resolution, which can be in full or by caption only.
I'll move to, for the first reading by caption only.
Just for clarification, there's only one reading of a resolution.
Okay.
So you move for the only reading.
Move to accept the reading by caption only.
I'll second.
All right, so a motion from Mr. Pollard, second from Mr. Farnum. Reading the resolution.
Resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of general obligation bond anticipation notes, Series 2023 of the City of Bristol, Virginia, and providing for the form, details, and payment thereof.
All right, thank you. So we'll move into council discussion.
This has gotten extremely expensive, but the city manager had warned us a long time ago that this would wind up being more expensive, in his words, than the falls would ever be. And now we're looking to put another $30-something million plus expenses associated with the bond anticipation notes. But it's necessary. We are still not nearly as often as we used to, but we are still experiencing side effects from the landfill. I experienced it fairly strongly at my house last night. Fortunately, like I said, it's not happening nearly as often as it used to be. But we still have additional repairs that we have to put in there, and up to and including the final closure. It's got to be done, I'm afraid.
I think up until this point, over the past few years, we've used a lot of cash on a lot of expenses already, so, and we still have cash, which is important for day-to-day operations. But, yeah, this is definitely just another step in the process. I think I've said that before, just another step in this process to get to the end, so.
I hate that we have to do this. I hate that we're here, but we have to finish the job. We have to do what we need to get the landfill squared away. I want to thank Mr. Eads, Ms. Bradlin, and the rest of the city staff for their work over the years, previous councils, the last couple of years, for their work in getting us in a financial situation where we could weather this hurricane a little better. I'd hate to know what would be happening tonight had you all not done the work you've done, so I appreciate that. I hate to borrow money, I hate to borrow this amount of money, but we've got responsibilities, we got to do this. I'm hoping with the great leadership sitting down there by staff and then up here as well, hopefully you can call that great leadership, but hopefully we can make that progress again and kind of make headway once we take out this loan. So I'm optimistic where we're at. Hate we're having to do this tonight, but we gotta get the job done. So
I do want to give credit, as you had alluded to previous councils over the past, say, 8 years that set a lot of the things in place now that we are benefiting from. If we were still borrowing just to pay our regular bills with the tax anticipation notes that we used to use, we wouldn't be in a situation to be able to contemplate an additional $30 million in bonds now. We've come a long way. We have a long way yet to go. This is a setback. It's, you might say, one step forward, 2 steps back, sometimes it feels. But if it had not been for the hard work of some previous councils, we would be in a lot worse place now. I also want to express my appreciation to the city staff, city manager, assistant city manager, for the hard work that they put in to make sure that even while we're going through this, the trash collection rate was able to be lowered substantially, which makes it a lot easier. It's still going to be painful on residents, especially when we have to pay off this $32 million. But at least their regular monthly trash rate is lower than it was going to be. Higher than it should be, in my opinion, but it's lower than it was going to be. I appreciate the hard work.
I'll say that, I recognize the gravity of taking out this amount of bond debt. I think we all recognize the gravity of that situation. But it is something that is completely necessary for us to do to complete these projects that are completely necessary for us to complete. The fact that we have the ability to do this is thanks wholly, to the people sitting to my right, to your all's left, down here, and also to, as others have said, the previous members of council, including Mr. Hartley, who is here tonight. We thank him for that. It's a big deal to take out $32 million worth of bond debt. We are a city that is very, very indebted. But, and I can recite chapter and verse, where we've been, where we are, and hopefully where we're going. But I think that we have a plan in place to pay down the debt that we have already incurred. I think we will have a plan in place to pay down this debt once we do incur it. And I think we'll all be better off once we're able to complete these projects at the landfill and get this stage of that in our rearview mirror. So before we move to the vote, I know that our bond folks are here. If you all want to maybe get up and talk a little bit about the timeline for what we could be expecting over the next little bit with this, just for public information.
As Mr. Eads mentioned, my name is Megan Gilliland, and my firm, Kaufman & Knoll, serves as bond counsel to the city. Assuming the resolution is passed this evening, the plan will be to post the offering document for the public sale in the next week. The bonds will be sold the end of October with a closing and the money being available to the city the middle of November. I'm happy to answer any questions on the resolution or on the financing if there are any from City Council.
Thank you. And Mr. Rose, do you have anything you want to add?
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I would add is that this money that we are borrowing, the hope is that we are at least asking the Commonwealth to help defray some of these costs that we are planning to pay back. But again, that is one thing that we are not slowing down on, is trying to get this, some element, if not all of this, into the Commonwealth's budget. Have no sense of what will happen, but as you saw and were a part of when we talked with the rating agencies the last couple of weeks, we understand that if we have to do this, it will not be easy, but thankfully, as Mr. Pollard and Mr. Holmes and Ms. Farnham all indicated, like yourself, previous councils and this council have done everything they possibly humanly could to put you in the best possible position to deal with this. Nobody wants to, including us here, be here tonight to do this. This is not an exciting money raising by any means. We all understand that. So thank you.
Thank you. And do we have any questions?
This is going to be effectively short-term notes anticipating longer-term bonds later, correct?
Correct.
And this is currently looking for a rate somewhere short of 6%.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any feeling, I know this is entirely hypothetical, what our rates would be looking like for the bonds when we need to actually get those?
I do not, in the sense that we don't know where the markets are going at that point. And again, the way it's set up, though, we have the ability to prepay some or all of this a lot sooner than the final maturity, which is out there several years. So we purposely set that up. It's very difficult to know. I will say, while it may not feel this way versus where we were 12 or 18 months ago, as long-term rates are looked at, this is actually a good rate environment. It's actually still a favorable rate environment. I know that doesn't feel as good per se if you're a homeowner and you're borrowing on a taxable basis, meaning a mortgage. Those are higher than typically what folks like you and I are able to do as local governments, because we have the ability to borrow on a tax advantage basis, we, the local government, and that's important. It's a different marketplace. Nevertheless, rates are up from where they were, but in the greater scheme of 30 years, over the last 30, 40 years, rates are still on the lower side. But I don't know where they're going to be, Mr. Pollard. No, we don't know that.
If I remember correctly, back when this was being contemplated several months ago, the idea was that with the bond anticipation notes, we won't necessarily need to draw it down except as payments are due, correct? Which means that we will only owe the interest as we need to draw against it?
Not exactly. So what's happening here is we will borrow that full amount of money, but we will immediately turn around and put those monies that we borrow into what we're going to call SNAP, which is administered by the Treasurer of the State of Virginia, Commonwealth of Virginia, and it's called the State Non-Arbitrage Program. So the good news here is that right now, those interest rates are approximate to what will be our borrowing rate. So from that perspective, let's go with an ideal that, for example, we may draw some of those dollars down, but let's say somehow we get this very large infusion of dollars, which we're not counting on, from the Commonwealth, then basically we can pay off those dollars. But those dollars will, while they're sitting in the SNAP, will basically be earning somewhat akin to what our borrowing rate is. So that's why essentially we're saying the same thing, but no guarantees. those rates could come down quickly, but the opposite is really what's happening. They've been moving up, those short term. And by the way, those investments that are administered by the state, those are all United States Treasury obligations. They are as the safest things. They're not stocks. They're not bond funds or anything of that nature. So
The interest is not guaranteed, but the principal is.
that's correct. The way the program of SNAP has two programs. We're going to put it in the program where the principal is guaranteed. That's correct. That's right.
Then once we know what the total costs are going to be, then we'll get long-term bonds at a lower interest rate to pay this off, right?
Again, we don't know if it'll be a lower interest rate. Depends what the market is.
But that's the
hope-
intention.
That's the hope. Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I like to discuss things.
Oh, you're fine. We appreciate the information. I'll just, to follow it up and close it out, as Mr. Rose said, there are a lot of things that there are a lot of things in the city that I can think of that I'd like to spend $32 million on that's not a landfill. But I'm glad that we have, this ability to have this money to fix the landfill. And just because we're doing this does not mean that we're going to stop asking for any additional funding from, state or federal sources as we can get it. We are hopeful that we can get some more money from the Commonwealth of Virginia in the next budget, but, no guarantee. So, this allows us to continue our projects and finish out what we need to do. So, I look forward to getting it done. Hearing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes,
Osborne.
Yes. All right. Item 3, resolution authorizing the city manager to certify and sign an application to the Virginia Brownfields Restoration and Economic Redevelopment Assistance Fund for a site remediation grant. No one has signed up for public comment. Staff report.
Council, for 3 years, the city has hired consultants, engineers, contractors, and other experts at enormous expense to safely and proficiently close the city's solid waste management facility. This site has required extensive remediation in order to reduce benzene emissions and ameliorate the overwhelming odor. Remediation efforts are still underway while costs associated with these efforts continue to multiply. Looking forward, the city anticipates using the closed landfill properties to support solar energy. The city intends to improve the community prosperity by providing not only sustainable green energy, but also reduced energy bills through a residential serving community solar project. Reduced energy costs will benefit many of the city's economically disadvantaged individuals and families while transforming otherwise undevelopable land into a source of sustainable and green energy.
All right, thank you very much. Looking for a motion and a second for reading of the resolution, which can be in full or by caption only.
I move the reading of the resolution by caption only.
second.
All right, motion from Mr. Holmes, second from Mr. Pollard. Council discussion.
I'm glad we have options like this where we'll see if they approve it or not, but we can apply for it. And over the past several years, as we've been dealing with the landfill, we've been coming up short on things that we seem to qualify for to apply for. So I'm very glad to see that we have something that we can apply for. And we'll need to have further discussions, obviously, but the use of the former landfill for use for solar power generation looks like a positive opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is just an example of, trying to find every avenue possible to help us with our landfill costs. So I'm glad that this is an option to us, and I hope that we're able to be approved for it. I know it's just a drop at the bucket for the amount of money that we need, but it's a fairly substantial amount of money nonetheless. And as Mr. Pollard implied, I think it's great that this kind of gives us a path forward and a plan for what to do with the landfill once we're done with the work at the landfill. I think a solar power farm will be beneficial to our residents. We'll be able to maybe help lower the cost of power for low-income people and for people who need help. So I think this is a very good opportunity for us down the road. And I think in the short term, it'll certainly help if we're able to secure this grant. Hearing no further discussion, please call the roll.
We need to read the resolution real quick.
Oh, yeah, do that.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Bristol, Virginia, authorizing submission of an application to the Virginia Brownfields Restoration and Economic Redevelopment Assistance Fund for a site remediation grant to restore and redevelop the Bristol landfill.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I've been up a long time. Now hearing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. All right, item 4, supplemental appropriation of $1,039,617. And I believe the staff report is coming from the CFO.
Members of council, this item is a supplemental appropriation of $1,039,617, consisting of items in the general fund, the Judicial Alternative Sentencing Program, appropriate state grant award funds for the Drug Court Sustainability Grant, $39,951. Fire Department appropriate funds for equipment ordered in fiscal year 23 and received in fiscal year 24, $12,696. Fire Department grants appropriate increase in fire programs aid to locality grant funding for fiscal year 24, $5,341. Street and Engineering Divisions appropriate insurance proceeds received from traffic accident damage, $21,699. Parks and Recreation Programming appropriate donations received in fiscal year 24, $9,670. General Fund transfers appropriate additional transfer to solid waste, $422,320. Appropriate additional casino gaming tax revenue received to be expended on police vehicles, $25,470. Then in the local funded capital projects fund for the police department, appropriate transfer from the general fund for additional casino gaming tax revenue received, $25,470. Appropriate federal grant award for DCJS ARPA Law Enforcement Equipment Grant, $477,000. Again, making the total appropriation $1,039,617. And staff recommends that council approve the supplemental appropriation as listed. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We are looking for a motion and a second to take action on this.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the supplemental appropriation as presented.
Second.
All right, motion from Mr. Farnum, second from Mr. Holmes. Council discussion.
Well, we're putting more money into the landfill. That's what a good portion of this is. Fortunately, a lot of this is also for improving our police equipment. They put a lot of miles on those vehicles. They need to replace them periodically, and this will be doing so with funds provided by the gaming revenue. So that's really nice on both sides. We're getting something done, and we're not having to directly pay for it ourselves. And I guess I've talked enough tonight.
And I would also note, just, on that fact, I think we'd appropriated $600,000 from the gaming revenue to the police department. And the fact that we're appropriating more just means that the casino is doing better, and we have more to spend for the police department. So I think that's great. Hearing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. All right, now we'll move into our ordinance section. First one, an ordinance approving and authorizing the sale of property owned by the City of Bristol, Virginia, located on Spyglass Court. No one has signed up for public comment. Staff report.
Council, this would be the second reading of this ordinance, which would take effect 30 days after today. On August 1st, 2023, the city received an unsolicited offer to purchase 2 city-owned parcels of land located on Spyglass Court in the Clear Creek Golf Community, map parcel numbers 121-C-1-E3 and 121-C-1-E9. Pursuant to the Code of Virginia and the City Code of Bristol, Virginia, a notice of the offer and notice of this public hearing was published in the Bristol Herald-Courier on August 8th, 2023, and published online from August 8th through 17th, 2023. Offers were to be directed to Randall C. Eads, City Manager, at 276-645-7333 prior to August 22nd at 3 p.m. Any offer received after that date and time was not considered. We did receive one additional offer prior to that 3 p.m. cutoff time.
All right, thank you very much. We're looking for a motion and a second for second reading of the ordinance, which can be in full or by caption only.
I move the second reading of the ordinance by caption only.
Second.
All right, motion from Mr. Holmes, second from Mr. Farnum. Council discussion.
I'm excited that we're going to have a couple new homes in the city. Glad that somebody wants to take these on and build something there, so it's always exciting to see that. Hopefully we'll have some new neighbors soon, so.
Absolutely.
It's also getting something off of the back on the tax rolls that the city didn't need to own. So somebody is going to be paying taxes on it, so that's also positive.
More taxable real estate, that's what we like.
And these are going to be handled by a developer who is not only going to be paying the taxes on the initial value, but making it worth a lot more, which then means even more taxes, as well as expanding the local housing stock.
We love to see it. Hearing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. All right, reading of the ordinance by caption only.
An ordinance approving and authorizing the sale of property owned by the City of Bristol, Virginia, located on Spyglass Court, map parcel numbers 121-C-1-E3 and 121-C-1-E9.
All right, thank you. Now we're looking for a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance.
I move the adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
All right, motion from Mr. Holmes, second from Mr. Farnum. Please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. All right, ordinance 2 has been tabled. Ordinance 3, an ordinance to amend section 62-10 of chapter 62 to the city code pertaining to loitering in public places or streets. No one signed up for public comment. Staff report.
Council, this is the second reading of this ordinance, and it would go into effect 30 days after today. The purpose of this ordinance amendment is to include a more detailed description of the definition of loitering in public places or streets, and to be further pursuant with Code of Virginia 15.2-926.
All right, thank you very much. Looking for a motion and a second for second reading of the ordinance, which can be in full or by caption only.
I move for second reading of the ordinance by caption only, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All right, motion from Mr. Farnum, second from Mr. Holmes. Council discussion. All
Like I
right.
said, I've talked enough tonight.
All right, well, hearing no council discussion, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. All right, reading of the ordinance by caption only.
An ordinance to amend section 62-10 of chapter 62 to the city code pertaining to loitering in public places or streets.
Thank you very much. Looking for a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt the ordinance.
Second.
All right, motion from Mr. Farnum, second from Mr. Pollard. Please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. All right, thank you. Ordinance 4, an ordinance to add section 62-13 to chapter 62, article 1 of the city code pertaining to public urination, defecation, and exposure of genitals. No one signed up for public comment. Staff report.
Council, this is also the second reading of this ordinance. It will go into effect 30 days after today. Public urination, defecation, or exposure of genitals. It shall be unlawful for any person to urinate or defecate or expose his or her genitals for the purpose of urinating or defecating in or on any sidewalk, street, or in any public place or in view of the public, unless such urination, defecation, or exposure be in a bathroom, restroom, or other facility specifically designated for such purpose. Any person who violates this section shall be guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor.
All right, thank you very much. Looking for a motion and a second for second reading, which can be in full or by caption only.
I move the second reading of the ordinance by caption only.
Second.
All right, motion from Mr. Holmes, second from Mr. Pollard. Council discussion.
Surprised it was even needed, but glad we're doing it.
Yeah, ideally, you wouldn't want to have this type of ordinance, but you do. I'll say I've spoken with people who are experiencing homelessness since we talked about this the first time, and by and large, most of those folks understand why we're doing this. Most of those folks think it's crazy to go to the bathroom out in public like that anyway. So, it's just it's a very small portion of those people who may be doing that, and by and large, homeless folks understand why we're enacting an ordinance on this. So, it is common sense. Hearing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Barnum,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. All right, reading of the ordinance by caption only.
An ordinance to add section 62-13 to chapter 62, article 1 of the city code pertaining to public urination, defecation, and exposure of genitals.
All right, thank you. Looking for a motion and a second for adoption.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt the yes, ordinance.
Second.
All right, motion from Mr. Farnum, second from Mr. Holmes. Please call the roll.
Barnum,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. Next item is matters to be presented by members of the public for non-agenda items, and no one signed up for that, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. What is the pleasure of council?
I move the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, motion from Mr. Holmes, second from Mr. Farnum. Please call the roll.
Barnum,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. There being no further business, we stand adjourned.